Okay, again, we're not going to draft this view right here. We're going to draft the four views, the top, the front, the right, and then the isometric. Again, this is an isometric with dimensions added. Normally you never add dimensions. So we'll use this as reference, and from that we will draft up this part. Now I will say this about this part. This is a bit more complex than what you have experienced so far, especially in some of the math where you're having to divide this 3/8 into 3/16. You have to also put in, different sizes for this. This actually drops down to 3/8 itself. One goes to half. That's pretty simple. But it's a little bit more complicated part, and I think you're going to actually enjoy doing this. And I'm getting good feedback from some of you students of how you're actually enjoying doing these. And I personally like to hear that, and I've also experienced it myself as well. Again, I'm going to be using my ruler that I created at school, and I use my 30-60-90 triangle. I have to be honest with you, I actually like using this triangle better than I like using this one. This one has a couple rough edges on it, so I'm not too pleased with that. But as far as drafting, this thing's been really nice. I like using it. Okay, so again, let's lay it out. Let's go and let's put our 4 quadrants in play and make sure that we're doing this correctly. Whoops, got that off a little bit. Go back and fix that, okay? And then I'll come up here to this one, which is actually 1 inch off center line. I'll put that quadrant in as well. And I'm just going to kind of look up here at the top, kind of reference down, put that quadrant in. I'll come over here to this side and put that quadrant in. I always like to lay out my drawing the same way every time. I use that for legibility. I learned that lesson a long time ago at NASA when they told us that we had to make our drawings legible, for flight engineers, for astronauts, and any kind of person that was looking at it. And I finally asked them one day, I said, why is it so important that the drawings are laid out a certain way? And they said, well, the spaceship is traveling 17,000 miles an hour, and they have to be able to look at something in a split second and make a decision, especially in deploying a payload or communicating with the astronauts in space. It's important that the drawings look very readable and legible. And the other thing, honestly, is that it's more about professionalism. You want your drawings to look professional and quality, and that's something that plays out. Now, there's other methods of actually laying these drawings out that books deploy. I think in Jeff Walker's book here, John Walker's book, he has a method that he uses, works for him, doesn't, and I prefer a different method because I'm using standard copy paper to draw from. That's why I use this method here. And I do everything in half scale. Okay, so there's our 4 quadrants, our top, our front, our right, and our isometric. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this line or erase this line out, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the isometric slope angle. So that way we've got that 30 degrees going in like we should. So I'll put that in here, and I'll draft that guy in just so that we've got the orientation. Again, if you come back and you put a scale or a ruler on this, you'll notice that these are actually about 2 inches apart from each other. And you want to make sure that they stay about 2 inches apart in your layout. Okay, that's good. Now what I want to do is, let's go look at the drawing again. Now again, this drawing is using a 5-inch measurement along the base of it. So we're going to measure out 5 inches divided by 2 because we happen to draw at half scale. Because if I was drawing 5 inches from this corner, this quadrant right here, it would be off the page way out here. So I need to go half scale. So I'm going to come up here off this center point, find my 1/2 inch here. I'll come up to this guy as well and find my 2.5 inches there. Now, if we look at our drawing as well, it shows that the thickness of the part, which I did not put that dimension in, and I need to put it in from here to here. Let's reference that in the other drawing. I think that's 1.5 inches. Let's go back and look at that. I need to put that in that drawing now that I see that. So I'll come up here, we'll go back to their drawing, and I'll look at that. I did not put it in that drawing as well. So it's going to be 3/8 and 3/8, which is actually 3/4. And then the thickness of that is 3/4. It's going to be 1.5 inches. That's pretty easy to figure out. Okay, so we need to go 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches divided by 2 is 3/4 of an inch. So we'll come down here and we'll find 3/4 of an inch right here. We'll put that mark in. We'll come up here as well at the top here and put that mark in as well up there. Okay, so Now we have that in. We know what our horizontal side's going to be. We know what our vertical side's going to be as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and draw in the 2.5 mark there. Make sure that this mark goes up here. About that far is fine. Okay, good. And we'll use our bottom of our drawing sheet here to do the vertical line on the front view over here. So I'll put that in. Draw that guy in like that. Now, according to this reference drawing, this is 2.5 inches, so that would be 1.25 on height. So let's go ahead and calculate the 1.25. So I'm going to come in here and put the 1.25 in, mark there. I'll come over here on the other side and line this up as best I can, 1.25 there. All right, so there we have that, and now that I've got these in, I'll draw my horizontal line across like this. Horizontal line across like that. Okay, so now we've got basically blocking it out, the views of our drawing. I'm going to draw this a little bit heavier, not too much, so I can see that. Again, it's going to be 1.25 inches across the top here. So let's go ahead and look at it. So 1.25, so it'd be 3/4 of an inch. So we'll put that in like right here. Okay. 3/4 of an inch, make our mark there, just like we did over here. And I'm going to come over here on this side and do the same thing again. I'll make myself a 3/4 inch mark, make sure I got it. Put that mark up there. And now I'm going to draw this horizontal line across here. Okay, not too heavy, because we're going to have to come back and erase these lines that we use for our draft. They're called draft lines, or draught lines, as the English like to say. We're laying this guy out so that we can draw lightly first, and then when we come back and as we complete the drawing, we'll draw it in heavier and put that in. Now, I've looked at some of your drawings, and a lot of your drawings, you draw your draft lines too heavy at first, and then you have a difficult time coming back and using your eraser. Again, I strongly emphasize that you use a technical pencil like this with a white eraser. If you use a pink eraser, it has an abrasive bit into it and it'll cut a hole through your paper. This lead right here performs very well on these standard little Bic pens that you can get. I guess this is can't see what brand it is. This is a Pen Gear, whatever that is. Never seen one of those. It's a 0.7 I mean. So this guy works pretty good. I like using this one. Okay, now let's start getting some measurements in. We know that the height of this is 1.25, so that's 1.25. So that would be 5/8 of an inch. If you're not sure what 1.25 is divided by 2, get a calculator out and divide it. It's going to be 5/8 of an inch, which is 0.625. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make a mark at, I'm going to use 5/8 of an inch right here, as you can see. And I'm going to make my mark right there. And I'm going to come across here, again at 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to make a mark here. Okay. Now I'm coming across here like this. So I can line this up here. And again, I draw lightly because these are my draft lines. They're not my final drawing. Okay, got that in. Now let's look here real quick and let's see. This is 3/4 of an inch. Half of the 3/4 of an inch is 3/8 of an inch, which is 0.375. If you look at your ruler, here I'm going to move to the 1 inch mark here so you can see that. This is an 1/8, this is an 1/8, and this is an 1/8. So half of 3/4, which is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, half of 3/4, 0.75 is 0.375, which is 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. So we'll make us a mark there. I'm going to come up here at the top and do the same thing on this top view. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. I'll make a mark there because I'm going to use that on both sides of that. I'll put my ruler here and draft this guy in up here. Again, very lightly. I don't have to do it too heavy. Now let's look at our design again. Okay, so that was 3/4 of an inch. Now this says it's a 1/2 inch tall. Okay, excuse me, 1 inch tall. So half of 1 is 1/2 inch. So we'll come over here and we'll find our 1/2 inch mark here, and it's 1/2 inch. I'll make a mark there. I'll scoot across to the other side of the drawing, to the front view. I'll make myself a 1/2 inch mark there. Then I'll take my scale or my ruler and I'll rotate it around. Now again, I'm using light draft lines. I don't have to come all the way across here and draw that line all across. That would be unproductive. So I'll come back here and draw a mark here and draw a mark here. Now I've noticed these are a little bit smaller. That's okay. We can come back and fix them. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Kind of fix this in here, make it a little bit longer. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay, good enough. Now we'll come up here to the top. We don't have to do that. We know that the depth of this, it says it's 3/8 of an inch in 1-to-1 scale. So half of 3/8 is 3/16. So 3/16 is 0.1875. 0.1875. So I'm going to rotate this around. I'll come up here off the 1 mark, and I want you to look. That's 1/16, 2/16, 3/16. So that 3/16 sets my depth. And I'm going to try to line that up as best I can. I'll make myself a mark there. I'll come up here and do the same thing on the top side. 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, and make myself a mark there. All right. Now, it's going to be kind of hard to draw a horizontal line all the way across there. So I'm going to use my side of my drawing sheet right here, and I'll line up my ruler and my scale, and I'm just going to draw this guy in using my 30/60/90. So I'll come all the way across here, move up to the top here, and come all the way across here as well. So now I've got pretty much the top view coming in. I'm going to use my eraser shield. And again, this drawing is more complex than what you've been associated with. So you kind of got to roll with me on that. So I'm going to knock those out real quick, get that cleaned up. We'll come up here, put it at somewhat of a diagonal here. We'll get that in. That guy in. All right, looks good. Okay, so it's starting to show up, starting to take some shape here. Our drawing is. Now, we know that this is a 3/16 depth, so we're going to come down here and do the same thing on this guy as well, on this front view. This is pretty easy to see because I'm sitting right on top of it. So there's a mark there, and there's a mark there. All right. So again, I'll take my ruler, line it up here. I'll take my 30/60/90, and I'll draw in that one little shape for the part that kind of sticks out on the side. And actually, I'm going to take this all the way up to the top now. I forgot about that. Let's draw that in a little bit better. There we go. So drawing in that top part right there. About 100 years ago, before CAD systems were around, maybe not even that long ago, 40, 50 years ago, before CAD systems came around, a draftsman, like what we're doing right here, was a highly respected position. The reason it was highly respected was because it took an engineer's concepts and ideas, or a scientist or an inventor's concepts and ideas, and he produced it, or she produced it, into a drawing that could be used to design and to make a part. And that's important. I'm going to go ahead and put this one little shape in right here. And actually, this pretty much finishes the front view that we have right here. Okay, so I'm going to come back in and darken up the object lines a bit. But again, years ago, drafting was considered a valuable skill, and they were paid accordingly. What's refreshing and exciting to note now is how the ability to manually draft in a drawing becomes really, really still a valuable skill. And I've got my partner here, my house cat, Pumpkin. She's coming in and talking to me, so we'll let her. She runs the place around here, so we got to let her come in. Okay, so we got that in. Now, we need to work on this view up here. Let's look at what images that we need. And this says 1 1/4. It says 1.25. Half of 1.25 is 5/8 of an inch. So what we're going to do is, we know where 3 inches is, so half of 3 inches is 1 1/2. So we're going to make a mark right here. I'm going to come down here and make a mark at that distance there. So there it is. Now we'll come up here to the top view and we'll mark off 5/8 of an inch. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. So we'll make a mark there. We'll come back down here, same thing again, to this top line, and we'll mark off 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. I'll make a mark there. Now we're going to go freestyle. Freestyle is a term I like to use where we're just going to draft in that face of this part by doing this right here. And there you can see it in. Now I'll come back up here at the top. Since I know this point and where it is, I'm gonna draft in this line at the top up here. And as you can see, the way we're doing this quickly makes these parts come into light. And I had a student comment to me last week about, he said, Mr. Platty, I really like doing this. I find them quite enjoyable. And where he was coming from was the fact that he feel like he's learning a skill that he can truly design, he can truly draft. And I, commented that I feel the same way. It's like when you start designing and drafting, you see your ideas come to light on paper. And from there, we can go and actually produce and make that part. Now, if we do our drawings good, and we send our drawings to a foreign country which may not speak our language, like China or Japan or Korea or Vietnam or Mexico or Europe or someplace in Europe, like Germany maybe, and this is for our German students, they can produce our parts by looking at how accurately drawn our designs are. Now granted, a CAD system, which I spent most of my career working in the CAD industry, can do this much, much faster, much more accurate. But again, knowing the concepts of manual drafting like we do now, we can visualize and use a CAD system even better because we understand the nature of our design. Now, looking at what we have here, I haven't got my object lines darkened in. We have our top view, our front view, and our top, our front, and our right view. I'm going to clean up this line right here so you can see it a little bit better because that is somewhat distracting. So we've taken that out. So we got our top, our front, our right. Let me darken this one line up here on the cutout here on the top. I'll do the bottom one too here, kind of darkening up our object lines. And you can see our part coming into play. Now I'm going to spend the next few minutes darkening up the object lines, and we'll come back to this. Okay, I went ahead and redrafted this drawing. I actually didn't redraft it. I went ahead and added in it the hidden line view that shows this is 1.5 inches wide at the base from this corner to the opposite corner over here on that side. So hopefully that's a little bit better for you to see. It's been uploaded to the website so you can take a look at it. And anyway, when we do our actual drafting of the isometric here, we will not show on this pictorial isometric we will not show the hidden lines on it. But I have it here for your reference on your drawing that you're working on. Again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to dimension these views here, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go ahead and draft in the dimension for this piece right here. Now, as you can tell, I've gone ahead and put a lot of dimensions in. I need to put in this dimension here as well so we can get that in, and that is, and we also need to put in this dimension. So there's about 3 dimensions we need to get in: this one, and this one. So we'll go ahead and work on that right now. So get my ruler here, and I'm going to go ahead and line it up with my 30, 60, 90 triangle, and I'm going to come off of this, I like to come off about 1/2 inch. Okay, I'll slide over here to this vertex right here, and again come off about 1/2 inch. Now I may need to come back and clean that up, make sure they're the same height. Yes, I need to do that. So we'll take care of that as well. And now what I want to do, let's go ahead and measure this, make sure it's at 1/2 inch. So I'll take my ruler here and find 1/2 inch. Yep, I'm a little tall on that, a little high on that. And I want to go 3/8, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, and that's where my line will actually go across. Slide over here again to the same side, mark that, and 3/8 right there. Okay, now I'll take my eraser shield. If you don't have one, you can survive without them. Prefer that someday if you get a chance, go ahead and get your eraser shield. You can get them off of Staples or Hobby Lobby or Michael's or probably Office Depot as well. So I'll go ahead and draw that in. And I'm going to darken up that line just a little bit so we can see it. And again, you always keep about a 1/16 inch gap off of the object line. Again, the object line is the outer perimeter of the part of the object that you're drawing. Okay, got that in there. Take my trusty eraser shield, put it about right there, kind of clean that up a little bit. Yeah, it looks better. Now again, you can draw just a straight arrowhead. I have my little template that I've used, and really helps me out a lot. If you don't have one, again, you can find one at any kind of art supply shop or technical drawing resources you can find on Amazon. I know a lot of us like to shop at Walmart. Walmart's a great store, but certain things they don't have, and typically I've not found any drafting equipment at Walmart, but I do find it at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, as well as Office Depot and Staples. Okay, so now again, we'll use our registration marks here, line up our ruler. We'll come up here and we will draw this in. And we've got one dimension that we need to fix. I'll show you that here in a second. Come off that about so far. Come off that about so far. Yeah, I'm going to have to fix this dimension. This is not correct. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. I misread that. In fact, I'm just going to erase just the 3. I misread the reference drawing incorrectly. So I'll put a 1 in, and that's going to be 1 and 1 1/4 inches. Okay, again, let's find our 1/2 inch mark. Come out to about right there. Come down about 3/8, make a mark. Again, slide over. 1/2 inch mark, 3/8 of an inch. Okay, I'll come in and draft in that dimension string right there, coming across. Okay, I'm going to erase this off. Again, I cannot stress to you how important it is for your drawing to be neatly drawn, your text to be written correctly, because how legible your drawing is going to be vitally important to conveying the information you have on it. It could mean a piece of medical equipment that could save a person's life. It could be a high-performance fighter jet that you're drawing a part for that needs to be read because of the high-stress environments that fighter jets are typically in. An aircraft carrier, a ship, anything you can imagine. Your drawing ability is important. Your professionalism is very important for the advancement of your career and how you're able to move up in your life in technical design or graphics or engineering. So flip this around. We're going to come in, we're going to put this dimension in. Again, the dimension up here on the top, I had it incorrectly drawn. Oops, I did do it wrong. I messed up twice. My bad. Yep, that part was 3/4 of an inch. I made a mistake. Happens. 3/4 of an inch. That's correct, because that's just that one little feature right there. And I'm going to clean that up in that erasure mark right there. And I'm glad I saw that. And sometimes, you know, speaking of that, sometimes when you make a mistake, you're going to make mistakes. It's not, you can't get around that. So what you might do sometime is to have another designer, your manager, or someone say, hey, look, can you put another set of eyes on what it is I've designed? I want to make sure what I'm doing makes sense. And believe me, managers appreciate that because they want to make sure you're doing a quality job. And they really appreciate that you're conscious enough to come in and talk to them and say, hey, boss, I need some help. Did I do this right? And they like that. They like the fact that, you know, you want to get an extra set of eyes on your design so it makes sense. Okay, let's get this last dimension here, which is going to be 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to come out about 1/2 an inch. And I'll make myself a mark at 3/8. Come down here. I'm coming off this 5 right here, if you can see that. And I'm going about 5, a little bit past the 5, about a 1/16 pass. Now I'll take my ruler or scale, whatever you want to call it. I'll put it here and take my 30, 60, 90 and put it right there. And so I draw in that line. Now we'll get our template and we will come in here and put in the arrowhead. Okay, that arrowhead is in, and this arrowhead is going in right here. Now, these are going to be pretty tight. Let's see if we don't overlap. That's pretty tight, but that'll work. Probably I should have put it on the outside, would make more sense. And again, that is 3/4 of an inch as well. Double check that measurement, make sure I'm on it. Again, it should be 3/8 of an inch. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, it'll go. All right, so now what we want to do is draw in this isometric over here, and we'll stop for now.